Hello, Region Niners. Welcome to Region 9, the podcast for emergency managers, for them to get their news, their, topics, share discussions, talk about the industry. And thank you for joining us today. We are on our journey through our volunteers in active disasters. So a few months ago, we did our volunteer of active disaster, or a VOAD, with CERT, the Community Emergency Response Team. Thank you so much for coming on the show and giving us a little bit more information about CERT. And then the following month, so last month, we also learned about Team Rubicon with Monica Barber. So thank you so much for also providing us some feedback on Team Rubicon. So this month, we're going to talk about, or today, we're going to talk about American Red Cross. So I'm going to read their little blurb. American Red Cross is a nonprofit and humanitarian organization that provides emergency assistance, disaster relief, and disaster preparedness education in the United States. So that is what we are doing today. And I am your host, Ismar Garcia. This is the IAEM USA Region 9 Region Talk, the podcast. IAEM Region 9 serves Arizona, California, Hawaii, Nevada, Pacific Trust, and territories, including the American Samoa, Guam, and the Northern Mariana Islands. Before we jump into learning more about American Red Cross, a little bit of news from IAEM International, as well as USA and Region 9. We'll start with Region 9. So Region 9 call for nominations is a big deal. We've got the vice presidency up, and we've also got the treasurer board position up for nominations for IAM Region 9. The call for candidates to submit their nominations ends on July 5th. So a little over a week at 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern. If you want to be a candidate or you want to submit for a nomination, be sure to get those submissions to Rebecca at IAEM.com. That is REBECCA at IAEM.com. Alrighty, who can nominate? I'm going to come over to this screen and read this because there's a lot of text here. So, who can be a candidate? You would have to be an individual or a student member in good standing for a minimum of 2 consecutive years. You have to be a current member in good standing with dues paid for the current period, as well as a member of Region 9 at the time they notify of their candidacy. And then they also have to meet the qualifications per a IAM USA administrative policies and procedures. And then they can also not be a member of another board position. So you can't do 2 seats at one time. So those are the candidacy requirements. And then when you submit your candidacy, your call for nomination for your candidacy, you're going to do 2 things. The first thing is your candidate statement in Word or text format. A candidate statement should tell all regional members why you're qualified to be this officer. And then the second one is a photo. Nice little Vogue shot of with your nomination email with the format of JPG, PNG, or a TIF. And again, those are the items that you will submit by 2 p.m. Pacific time on July 5th. Also in the region, Arizona has their save the date for their Emergency Management Association's annual conference on September 25th and 26th in Phoenix. Down to the IAM USA International news, there is a 3rd annual National Access and Functional Needs Symposium, July 11th and 12th from 9 a.m. Pacific time to noon. These 2 days will go over effective emergency communication and establishing trust and credibility. There is also a IAM Lunch and Learn for Government Affairs and Advocacy. It's a basics course that starts at 9 a.m. on July 17th to share the differences of advocacy versus lobbying, and then to really focus on all of the government affairs that are happening now and things that happen annually so you can learn and then hopefully get involved. for the IAM 2024 awards. Now, the deadline to nominate is the 30th of this month. So literally just in a few days, ends on Sunday. Recognize these professionals, your peers, your peer professionals, and nominate them for an award. There are 7 categories of 17 awards in total, and they will be recognized at the annual conference awards banquet. Talking about the annual awards and the awards banquet, that's held at the annual conference. So the early bird is open. The deadline closes in October, so you have enough time to get your early bird registration in. There was a member exclusive launch that got to register for the early bird just a little sooner than the open early bird registration. So again, that registration deadline for early bird is in October. Now the room block. So there are 2 hotel room blocks, and they're also working on adding an overflow hotel. There's been so much want and need on getting a room and so much interest in just trying to get to a room block that they're working on adding more, having more rooms, more availabilities. So please be patient as they work through this process. I know everyone's earning for another a room block to get a room, to get a seat, your registration. Just a little patience, please, will go a long way as they work out and hopefully get some more rooms. That'd be great. All right, so that is our news for Region 9, call for nominations, as well as all items related to the annual conference, including Ledge Affairs and the AFN Symposium, the Access and Functional Needs Symposium. All right, now we are approaching the time we've all been waiting for. We're going to introduce our guest, Jamar Brewton. Welcome, Jamar. Please introduce yourself to our listeners.
Hey, how you doing? Happy Wednesday. My name is Jamar Brewton, Senior Disaster Program Manager for the American Red Cross, actually based out of Montgomery, Alabama, part of the Alabama-Mississippi region. So thank you for letting me be here, Ms. Garcia. I'm super excited and looking forward to an enjoyable conversation. Yeah.
Yay. Thank you for joining us. I know that sometimes schedules be what they may, and I greatly appreciate you coming on. I know you're on a different time zone, so thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem at all. I love California. I love Region 9, so it's an opportunity, and I really appreciate it. So.
All right, well, let's dive into the American Red Cross. Yeah. So can you give us a little explanation of what is the American Red Cross?
Yeah, so what is the American Red Cross? A little bit of history about the American Red Cross. So there used to be a huge, when I first started about 2.5 years ago, there used to be a huge picture. People think the American Red Cross, the Red Cross was started by Clara Barton, and this is partially true. Clara Barton did create the American Red Cross. But there is a man, a Swiss man named Henry Dunant, who actually saw the battle of Ceferino back in 1865, as he was trying to expand his family's fortune. And as he witnessed the battle, he was so moved by it that he decided to use his family's fortune to provide support and assistance for those impacted by the battle. And with that, he created the International Committee of the Red Cross. And with that, Clara Barton, as we all know, helped out as a nurse. She was a self-taught nurse, Clarissa Barton, and she helped out during the Civil War. And as she helped out during the Civil War, providing Band-Aids, aids, and supplies to both sides of the war, she decided to take some rest, right, vacation in Europe, and was able to see a couple of representatives of the American Red Cross and decided to bring that to the American Red Cross. So, surprise, surprise, Henry Dunant was actually the first person that won the Nobel Peace Prize.
Oh.
So, yeah, pretty cool guy. So that's a little bit about how the Red Cross started. One of the biggest things, we have a couple different areas in which we support. So we help out service armed forces. We help out to biomed, right? We give blood. We help out to international services. We help out to disaster cycle services, which I'm a part of. And we also help out with training services. So if you want to get certified as a lifeguard, you want to be certified as a babysitter, you want to be certified in CPR, we have a different department for that as well. So those are 5 different departments of the Red Cross, a little bit about a history about the Red Cross. And what I work out as with our mission statement for American Red Cross prevents and alleviates human suffering in the face of emergency by mobilizing the power of volunteers and the generosity of donors. So what all that means pretty much is we scale up and respond to incidents and natural disasters in our country. So all that in a nutshell, right? So that's what we're about, and it's been going pretty well so far.
Very nice.
Yeah.
With the various type of, I guess, branches, groups,
Yeah.
many organizations, how does American Red Cross operate with the various
Yeah.
sectors?
That's a very good question. So I think one of the ways we operate it, we are a non-federal organization, or we don't take any federal dollars. So we are a charitable organization. So everything, how we operate is all through donations of the community, which is a big, big thing. So we're really big on fundraising, right? And every 90 cent of every dollar is contributed to the services that we provide to the community, right? So that's another portion of it. One big thing that we help out with, we are the only nonprofit that has a congressional charter to help out with natural disasters. So that's one of the biggest things that helps us make sure that we're present, right? So to answer your question more or less, how do we work? We're 90% a volunteer organization. So we're a volunteer-led organization to make sure that we respond to all different kinds of disasters. We not only just help out with natural disasters that has a state of emergency, we help out with local ones also, small family fires, as well as a big thing that we do on a consistent basis. So how we split that up is we have different regions, different divisions. So I'm a part of the C-Card division, right? We have a National Red Cross. We're split in divisions. My division is part of Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, and Puerto Rico. And in that division, we work together to do all those different departments. Service Armed Forces are the team members that go out with our military partners, and we make sure we keep the line of communication while they're deployed. So let's sit there and say you have a military member, for example, someone in Ukraine or Poland, and want to have lines of communication. We'll send out a Red Cross, the Service Armed Forces, to a member to go out there and make sure they can continue to talk to their family. When it comes to blood, as we all know, we do take donations of blood, whole blood platelets for our sickle cell awareness, right? So you can definitely stop by and donate blood. And the cool thing about the biomed is they'll tell you where your blood goes. So once you take blood, I'm at 5 gallons now, right? So they'll send an email and says, hey, your blood has been sent to a children's hospital in South Carolina. And it tells you where actually it goes specifically, which is pretty cool. So we work together to work with our partners in the communities to raise that awareness and coordinate with them events and activities. When it comes to disaster cycle services, which is a big one, we partner with emergency managers like yourself in your area to have conversations and say, hey, where can we help? Where can we support? What would you like for us to do in your community to make sure it's successful? And then the biggest thing is we rally volunteers. We rally as many Red Cross volunteers as we can and make sure they're trained up, make sure they're confident, and send them out there to make sure they help those people in need. So some of the reasons, and that's how it all works in a nutshell. And we work closely together across different departments to make sure we're helping each other out to accomplish our goal.
Right on.
Yeah.
So you mentioned about the coordinating with emergency managers.
Yep.
How does American Red Cross become that kind of resource? Or is there an outreach? Does the local emergency manager go to you? What does that coordination look like?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So we have it's a term for it in a way. We've coined it supportive community, which is a coin, but we have those marks, right? We have BOADs, but because of the congressional charter, we are a part of the national framework. So initially, what that means, the nation has agreed that the Red Cross will be helping out in some kind of portion. We have emergency support functions, right? Whole list that FEMA's created. We're really big in emergency support function 6, which is mass care. So we're really strong in mass care, really strong in feeding. So when we talk to our partners, we have a really strong relationship throughout the years to say, hey, Red Cross is pretty dependable in a lot of these particular areas. So when we go to emergency managers, it is how can we help you? How can we support? How can we work together to make sure we can meet the needs? And we work at the state level. We also work at the county level. So we talk to county emergency managers, state emergency managers, and say, hey, what's in your emergency operation plan? Where are some deltas? Where are some gaps? Where do you feel that you need support and assistance? And then where can we work together to meet the need, right? There's very, very rural Some rural and some counties may not have all the necessary needs they have to be able to handle a huge natural disaster, to be able to handle a flood or handle a Cat 5 hurricane. So how can we work together to make sure we support them? Or even in a multifamily fire, if there's a 24 unit multifamily fire and they have nowhere to go, we'll work with the emergency manager and say, hey, we know of a preacher or a pastor that has a church a couple miles away that we can support. So when we work with emergency managers, we consider it as a partnership. And one of our principles is just making sure we work together to see how we can fit that need. So it goes very well for the most part, right? It has its ebbs and flows, but I think moving forward, a pretty strong relationship in a lot of our areas, not just in Alabama, Mississippi, but across the country.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
What other? So you talked about emergency support function number 6 being mass care, and that's kind of like your bread and butter, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what for our listeners who are still learning about emergency management or don't know too much about what ESF or emergency support function number 6 really entails, can you spell that out a little bit for our listeners?
For number 6, mass care.
Yes.
Yeah. So mass care, it's comprises of sheltering, and I'll speak particularly for the Red Cross in a way. So American Red Cross, we help on a lot of different areas. So I'll give you paint a picture in a way, or paint a story. So I don't like using real places. I use Wakanda pretty often, Black Panther stuff. So in Wakanda, there is a hurricane, there's a flood, and we have to move people from this position or this location to another location as an evacuation. And as we evacuate them, they have to have some type of shelter to go to. So what is the plan? How do we get that? When it comes to mass care, we want to provide them care for a mass amount of people, right? And in that care will be a gymnasium, right? We can put them in a congregate shelter, right? A shelter that's together, a gymnasium. It's mostly preferred or some type of big space, and we provide some cots, right? We get them nice cots, give them nice separation, give them a blanket, and then from there they have some temporary place to stay. Also, part of that, we provide feeding, right? We have different types of way that we can provide feeding. It can be mobile, it can be in the vehicle, it can be in the kitchen, it can be a box lunch, and we provide them food as well as providing them a place to stay. In the Red Cross, we don't consider them victims, we consider them clients, and we want to provide them the best service that we can provide in the Red Cross, right? So from there, we provided them a place to stay, we provided them a hot meal, right? No MREs, right? We try our best to provide hot meals. And from there, we also have the ability to provide them mental health, spiritual care conversations, just in case, because somebody has a huge incident they may be a part of. We value mental health and we value spiritual care, and they can provide support for that. But not only that, we also have the ability to open up cases. And from there, we have developed a program called the Shelter Readiness Transition Team. I know I'm getting into the specifics, but
please.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. So from there, we help the families or the clients transition out of the shelters and help them create a plan and help support them. How can we help you be successful and move on from this incident? What resources and what help do you need to move forward to the next one? For an example, right? Hey, I have a plan and I have a place to stay. I may need help for the deposit for the apartment. Great. The Red Cross can support you with that because we open a case for you. We help try to meet your needs and it can provide assistance for that. Right. American Red Cross is for immediate needs, right? And we work with our partners to provide long-term needs, right? But we're really big on that one because, as you know, as climate change goes, it's such a reoccurring event of disasters. But when we think about mass care, we think about having some shelter, right? It could be congregate, could be non-congregate. Non-congregate, for example, could be a hotel, right? We think about feeding. We have MREs, we have hot meals, we have box lunches. We also think about the mental health and the spiritual care of those clients. And we also think about providing the ability to help them transition. One last thing is with that is we have reunification services. So let's sit there and say, for example, in Wakanda, there's been a big disaster and people and family members have been lost or they can't find someone. We have a program called reunification to help reunify those families, right? And we help out with other services like FEMA and other organizations. I think it's a web called Safe and Wellness. I think that's the website to provide support and assistance and make sure those families are reunited. So
Lovely.
yeah.
Look at you protecting Uganda. I love it.
So,
I was actually I'm glad that you spoke about the non-congregate sheltering because I was sheltering or shelters because you had mentioned congregate environments. Is there a preference on whether you open a congregate versus non-congregate, or is it kind of specific to what's happening?
yes, I think our preferences is congregate shelters. Then when it comes to specifics, for example, like COVID, where we needed a space, we'll do non-congregate shelters. But the preferred one is for shelters because, for example, it has the ability to be quicker, that speed the need in a way. If something happens in the middle of the night, 3 a.m., we have a relationship where we can open up a church really, really quickly. We have the supplies on hand. And so we're independently have the ability to say, hey, I have the cots. I have a location. We know the maintenance person or the preacher is going to open up in 30 minutes. We have all the resources that we need to get there as soon as possible. And that's our preference, right? But at certain times, in certain situations, for another example, I'm an examples guy, somebody that may be immunocompromised. If you're immunocompromised, you may have to go and get you a nice somewhere else to stay or end up somewhere closed in, right? But that's our preference is to have those congregate shelters. But we understand certain situations will require non-congregate.
Makes sense. I thank you for sharing so much of, I mean, you were saying getting into the specifics. I was like, yes, please, because getting down as to what kind of services American Red Cross actually has and or can provide is helpful for all of our listeners. And I absolutely love the fact that you call them, not victims, you call clients rather than victims. And I think that is, it really does change that mind frame from this isn't like you're not, it's not happening to you. You get to you are surpassing what is happening to you. And we're here to provide services and you are the client. Like we are from start to finish customer service 100%.
Yeah, I think, and that kind of goes to American Red Cross has a 5-year plan. And in that 5-year plan, the Red Cross has done a lot of changes, and that's what keeps the Red Cross relevant, because we listen and get feedback from our team to say what can we do to change, what do we need to do to coordinate, and with that feedback, we have a 5-year plan. We've talked about how we need to make adjustments. Right, one of the things that we used to do is you go here for your referrals. You talk to this organization. You talk to this organization, you talk to this organization, they'll give you what you want. They'll give you what you need. And from there, but now we've decided you are the pioneer and you are the captain of your own recovery. So what we do now is we provide a client assistance cards, which is a CAT card. Here are the funds for you, and you determine what you need to do for your recovery, and we'll support you along the way. Right. That 5-year plan that we have that came out in 2023, there's a couple areas that the Red Cross is making sure that we focus on. Right. When we talk about the clients, when we talk about transitioning, and one of the things that we talked about is presence is a mission and a promise. Right. We want to make sure that we have a presence in the communities. Disasters start local and they end local, regardless of how big they are. $500 million, $10,000 is still going to scale up and scale back down. Right. The second one, we need to improve our access to services and resources, right? We as American Red Cross understand the difference between equity and equality, right? We have a committee of diversity, equity, and inclusion as well. We want to make sure that we focus on those communities, not just counties or cities, those communities, so we can provide equitable services. We also want to make sure we have readiness and capacity building, right? We need volunteers and we need trained volunteers to have a passion to give back. Once we have that, and once we train up, we have the capacity to meet the needs of the community and meet the needs of the counties, right? We all know that this climate change is not going anywhere. We all know that the ocean is warm, right? We know that. The Colorado University sent out their hurricane forecast, so we know what it looks like, right? The fourth one, health, hunger, and housing, right? Housing is a big thing in our country right now. We want to make sure we provide support systems as best we can to help out in those 3 areas: health, hunger, and housing. And the fifth one is for our Red Cross. We want to simplify the training, right? We want to make sure that if you have a passion to be here, we don't want to bog you down with red tape. We don't want to bog you down with 3 days or 3 weeks of stuff. We have the ability to get you out there as soon as you want to get out there. I think there's some training that takes 6 hours, right? You take the baseline training of 6 hours, you get out there, you see if you like it, and if you're fully committed, you have enough passion, dedication to finish the rest of the training. But that's our 5-year plan to make sure that we stay relevant and we meet the needs of what's going on right now in our country. So
I love it. I love the planning.
Yeah, I believe in it, and I fully support it. So, and this is where we're headed to, and that's what we're working on so far.
I support the plan.
It's a good plan. I like it.
So tell me more about this training. Tell me. So you said 6 hours. What does it take to be a volunteer?
So we're gonna get into meat and potatoes. I know my audience now, right? So the Red Cross is a disaster response. We do disaster response operations, right? DCS, right, stands for Disaster Cycle Services, right? And that's our 5-year plan. But DCS, Disaster Cycle Services, there's a cycle to it. We prepare for disasters, we respond to disasters, and we recover from disasters, right? So when we prepare from disasters, we have a portion of programs that we provide to the community for free to make sure they're educated and prepared, right? We provide free smoke alarms. We provide courses. Be Red Cross Ready is a course that we provide to the community. Ready Rating is a course we provide to organizations and businesses. It's kind of like a COOP, continuing operation plan, for free. We also provide courses for youth. Pillowcase Project is for 3rd to 5th graders. Prepared Pedro, Pillowcase is for 1st to 3rd, and Prepared Pedro is 3rd to 5th. So we're preparing our community to make sure, depending on location, maybe in California, we prepare them for wildfires, right? Somewhere in Puerto Rico, we prepare them for flooding. And somewhere, maybe in my area, we prepare them for hurricanes, right? And each area for the children have a different animal. So we have Prepare Pedro, the penguin, and then we have an iguana, and then we have an owl, just depending on location. And they come in different languages, right? We have the ability to have them in Spanish, English, Mandarin, you name it. We have the ability to get that to make sure we meet the needs of the children, right?
Oh,
yeah. And we train people to be instructors, to instruct those in the community. So if you're interested, that's some training you can take, and you go out there and be able to have that training. The Red Cross is like a coin. When I say a coin, you have heads and you have tails, right? Mm-hmm. We have a blue skies, right, which is our day-to-day in the community, kissing babies, hanging out, going to community events, talking to pastors, talking to people, doing preparedness, right? Mm-hmm. And then we flip it and go to gray skies, right? When skies are gray and it's thunderstorming, then we turn into a disaster response operation. Then that disaster response operation, we have an acronym called a GAP, a group, activity, and a position. We have groups in the Red Cross, and there's a particular activity in those groups, and then those activities have position. So for an example, mass care is a group. In mass care, there's an activity you can do in there. You can do feeding, you can do sheltering, right? And then you can do an earth driver, right? So those are some things you can do. And then position is you're a supervisor, manager, and so forth. So those are the things in there. You can continue to get those skill sets and be able to be a leader to make sure you help out those else in the community. And that we have a platform that allows you to take the training at your own leisure. So.
But it really depends on volunteers, people volunteering their time, right?
It is. Depends on volunteers, and we're a 90% volunteer-led organization. So a lot of people that are out there in the community are volunteers, right? So with that being said, once you take the training, have that skill set, you have the ability to deploy. And the special thing I believe about the Red Cross is you can help out local, or you can help out across the country. So somebody from Alabama, if there's a disaster, can deploy out to Texas on the behalf of the Red Cross about 14 days and be able to go out there in their trained position to help out. So if you like talking to people and you're really good, you may be a caseworker. So you may go out in the community and help out delivering, providing cases to those impacted and have those conversations to help them move forward. And we'll give you somewhere to stay, provide you a meal, and be out there providing support assistance. And it's pretty tedious. You'll be out there like 8 to 8 in a way, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., but you enjoy it because you're making a difference and you're making sure people are taken care of. And we have a lot of dedicated Red Crossers that enjoy doing that, and also staying local and being able to help out as well as that, teaching the youth, teaching children as well, or responding to multiple fires. We do have a program, Disaster Action Team, the DAP program, full of Red Cross volunteers that would go out and respond to a fire to make sure 2, 3 in the morning somebody's house burned down, that we're there providing support and assistance. So
I love this.
Yeah.
There's so much information just about the Red Cross that I did, or American Red Cross, that I didn't even know about right now. And so thank you for like.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say on that one is even as a staffer, I'm a senior disaster program manager, even as a staffer, I may go to a deployment and there may be a 20-year volunteer that's telling me what to do, because we're all one Red Cross and we're all Red Crossers. Regardless if we're a volunteer or a staff, that one volunteer that used to be a PhD, a professor at Chapel Hill, that's now an operations manager, he knows what he's doing, right? So I enjoy that, and we emphasize that we're one Red Cross. We're all Red Crosses, regardless if we're employees or volunteers, to make sure we help prevent and alleviate health suffering. So,
great message to drive home.
yeah.
So thank you so much, Jamar. So much information. I'm definitely going to be grabbing so many more resources. I'm going to email you to make sure that all of our listeners can get all of the resources that you just spoken about. And then we'll definitely promote this on our next Substack newsletter for IAEM Region 9. But for our listeners right now, let them know where they can get a hold of you at.
Yeah, so you can reach out to me. My email is Jamar, JAMAR.Brewton@redcross.org. If you'd like to volunteer, you can become a volunteer in your Google search or Bing search, whatever search engine you have. And then from there, you can put in your local zip code and you'll be able to find your local chapter in the Red Cross to get out there and volunteer. So.
Well, thank you so much for joining us again on this episode and sharing your wealth of knowledge with American Red Cross.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Garcia. I appreciate it. And I've had fun. I thank you for giving me time to talk.
Of course. And for all of our listeners, if you've enjoyed this podcast with Jamar about the American Red Cross, be sure to reach out to Jamar directly. And we've shared his contact info. We're also going to go ahead and share all the links that are related to American Red Cross that have been shared on this podcast today with you in our newsletter. Thank you again for Region 9ers being so awesome, freaking awesome. You guys rock. So if you have not already started to follow us, be sure to follow us on social media, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Facebook, on X, or formerly Twitter, on Instagram, to get the most news, the most updates. Also subscribe to our Substack. Thank you to the man behind the controls, somewhere around behind the screen, is Brian at Sitch Radio, for being our awesome producer. And thank you for Region 9ers. You are phenomenal. You keep on rocking. We appreciate you. And you'll hear from us next month.